All right, everybody, and welcome back to the Nugget Bridge International Friendly, Germany versus the United States of America. We are down to set 5, the absolute decider here. Both teams coming out strong, 2-2 score right now. Some really amazing matches. We just finished watching Lajos versus Blake. Really great games by both of these players. Really great games from everyone that we've seen tonight. And I am even more excited for this game that we're about to look at right now. Markus, the defending German national champion, up against Gavin, the defending United States national champion. You couldn't have picked a better ending.
He definitely couldn't have. I think Gavin surprised everyone with the amazing national championship performance he had last year, but he's been a lot more consistent this year. Definitely someone we'd expect to do well. And I think Markus might actually be the first person from Europe who seems like maybe the world favorite throughout the whole season to take world championships. He won German nationals without too much trouble, and I'd expect him to do really well at worlds too. So an excellent matchup here, and one that might be foreshadowing the world championships.
All right. And we are looking at Gavin's team on your screen right now. That's Rotom Wash, Talonflame, Lucario, Venusaur, Salamence, and Mamoswine. Off screen, we've got Markus with Lucario, Rotom Heat, Salamence, Garchomp, Kangaskhan, and Gardevoir. Was not expecting a Lucario mirror match here.
Yeah. I think I can count the amount of times I've seen a Lucario mirror match on. Well, I don't think I've ever seen one, but it should be fun to see here. It is interesting to see the deviations of their teams. There are a lot of things in common, a lot of things different. They both look like they have a second Mega with Venusaur on Gavin's end and Kangaskhan on Markus's. They both have the Salamence, but the rest of the team is a little different. They chose different Rotom forms, both of which will probably be pretty important here. And then another interesting Pokemon, I guess, is Gavin's Mamoswine. We haven't seen a whole lot of it this year, but it's very good against a metagame that has a lot of dragons in it with the one of the few useful ice-type stabs in the metagame. So it should be excited to see what Mamoswine pulls off here if he chooses to bring it.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. He could not have asked for a better matchup with that Salamence and the Garchomp, too, for that Mamoswine. Should be an interesting match here. Of course, Markus did not drop a single game at the German National Championships, and he is going to be relying on that veteran status to bring the win home for Germany right here. Out come the first Pokemon on the field. Looks like Gavin's going to lead with that Rotom Wash and the Lucario, while Markus is going with the more traditional Kangaskhan lead, plus that Gardevoir we've been seeing so much of this entire tournament.
Yeah, so it looks like we likely see both sides Mega Pokemon here. I think the matchup between the Mega Pokemon is pretty interesting here. If you're Gavin with Venusaur, you really don't want to pick it in a match where Markus picks Kangaskhan. So good on him to have the Lucario instead here, a much better matchup with Kangaskhan. So you like that part of the lead matchup here. I don't think he has a particularly large amount of momentum. Obviously, Kangaskhan doesn't really want to fight either of these Pokemon since Lucario can easily blow it up and Rotom is threatening it with the burn, but there's not really enough offensive pressure here that I think that Markus wouldn't, he shouldn't struggle to switch into better position, though. This is a fairly free turn for Gavin here to try to get something done. It'll be interesting to see what kind of Gardevoir Markus is using here. If it's more offensive or more support-oriented. We've seen a surprising amount of support Gardevoir today, but I think offense is more common, so.
Well, Gardevoir clearly doesn't want to show us anything just yet, and goes ahead and switches out for Salamence so that we can get the Intimidate off onto the Lucario. Going to try and keep that in check. Gavin, of course, is going to switch out his Rotom Wash for the Talonflame, putting even more offensive threat on the field. It's not much the Talonflame does other than hurt things, while Lucario goes and Mega Evolves right away and is going to... So is Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan also going to Mega Evolve. The baby is coming out of the pouch, and now we have a whole heap and helping of offense on the field right now. Of course, Lucario is going to protect, and is going to block that attack from Kangaskhan right there.
Yeah, pretty daring play on both sides there. I mean, Markus plays that conservatively. He gets the Intimidate out to reduce the odds of Lucario just going crazy there. But Lucario kind of predictably plays it conservatively. You really don't want to take any unnecessary damage in Lucario. It's one of the highest damage potentials of any Mega, probably the single highest when it's using a fighting type move. But it comes at a cost, and that cost is being extremely frail. So he plays that safely, and kind of we get a wash for both sides here. Talonflame gets out for free. It dodges that Intimidate because it switched in for a slower Pokemon than Salamence did, but still, Salamence threatening the Rock-type move on Talonflame. Lucario threatening Kangaskhan by being Lucario, so some danger both ways here. Assuming Salamence is the typical Scarf build, it'll be interesting to see if it locks into a Rock move to deal with Talonflame, a Fire move for Lucario, maybe a Dragon move predicting a switch. I know that Markus also favors the Protect Kangaskhan rather than the Fake Out, so it's entirely likely that both Megas will stay out here, but not looking like it.
Nope, Mega Lucario is going to retreat in favor of Gavin's own Salamence, getting that Intimidate off on both the Kangaskhan and Marcus's Salamence. Very strong play there, going to go ahead and weaken 2 threats, just in case the Salamence is going to go with that Rock-type attack. Brave Bird onto Kangaskhan, going to deal good damage, about 3/4 of the health there, but it looks like that's a Dragon Pulse predicted from Markus. Great call there. Gets the Dragon Pulse onto Salamence, but it just barely hangs on, while Return gets the KO onto Talonflame. And I was just thinking, this is going to be an explosive battle. Whoever gets the first KO, likely going to take the game, and Markus really, really coming out strong right there.
Yeah, excellent turn by Markus there. I'm not, like I mentioned, there was that third option, right, of predicting the Dragon switch in. Really pretty daring there to hit that correctly, but this is why he went undefeated in a national tournament. This is why he's a favorite to win Worlds. Really, really, really impressive play there. You get everything you could possibly get out of that, and this is really a big hole for Gavin early now. I mean, he's lucky that Salamence at least survives this play. He can at least try to make some plays. He still has the option of switching if he needs to shed Intimidates for at least a couple more turns, but a huge momentum swing for Markus there.
Yeah, with such heavy offensive teams that we've seen from these two players, Gavin is really going to have to get a lot out of his remaining HP on that Salamence to even have a hope of bringing this back. Lucario is still at full health, so that's a very, very good thing for Gavin. But Kangaskhan out on the field, no slouch itself, and of course that Salamence of Marcus's own, putting a lot of pressure on him right now.
Yeah, and you mentioned these are both offensive teams, but I think Yoshi's team, or Marcus's team, I guess, if we're using the real names, might have some qualities that help him out a little bit here. He has offensive Pokemon in the sense that they're all Pokemon that can dish out a lot of damage, but they can all take damage really well too. Other than his own Lucario, who's likely not going to make an appearance in this battle, they all aren't Pokemon I'd consider easy to remove. Whereas Gavin's Talonflame just went down like nothing there, and Mamoswine is also equally frail. So a little more restrictions on Gavin's side of the field.
Yeah, and Markus is playing it a little bit safer here. Switches out his own Salamence for Gardevoir to tank that Draco Meteor, of course, not dealing anything to the Fairy-typed Gardevoir. Lucario tries to set up that substitute, gets it up, but here comes the power-up punch from Kangaskhan, that parental bond letting him break through this substitute, getting those 2 attack boosts and some damage through the substitute. Not the best turn for Gavin here.
No, I'd say if there was something that he absolutely couldn't do if he wanted to stay in this game, he found it. Because he's in a much worse position than he was in before somehow, giving Kangaskhan the boost and probably locking Salamence into a move other than what he'd like to be locked into right now. And he gave up the information that his Lucario is substitute if Markus didn't already suspect it, which will be very useful information in subsequent games, assuming Gavin's going to stick with Lucario instead of switching to Venusaur.
Yeah, and that Salamence switches out for the Rotom Wash, trying to preserve that as long as possible. But here comes the Lucario, is going to get off an attack on that Gardevoir. Super effective. Gets the KO one-shot on that Gardevoir. And Gavin is starting to bring a little bit of the momentum back with that Protect on Kangaskhan.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the Protect was going to be a great play, expecting it to block close combat or Aura Sphere, but instead we see Flash Cannon taking out Gardevoir there. So a special-based or mixed Lucario, And suddenly, things are looking a little bit more interesting again. I still think there's a pretty commanding lead for Markus here, since Salamence is going to prevent Lucario from just donking Kangaskhan, but at least he's made this interesting. Unless he's got Thunder Wave on Rotom, this is still a really bad situation, though. So I guess we'll have to see that this turn. He does at least get the information that Markus is still running Protect, but he is known for the bulkier Kangaskhan with Protect, so I'm sure he suspected that one going in. But still, lots of interesting things we're learning about both teams here.
Yeah, it looks like Lucario wants to protect, hide behind that. Does get the, excuse me, does block one attack, but the punch coming from Kangaskhan onto the Rotom forces the Citrus Berry out. That's a +2 Kangaskhan, but doesn't quite get the KO on Rotom. Oh, but the Hydro Pump misses. So close to gaining some of that back, but Hydro Pump, we saw it last time, not the most reliable of attacks.
Yeah, not so much. Failing to get that knockout on Kangaskhan, thanks to the Salamence's Intimidate earlier, I guess, allowing Rotom to just barely survive there, but it doesn't turn into much. At the very least, having gotten that knockout would allow Gavin to have the advantage of Salamence having to be stuck in that one move, but while it's still 3-2, Salamence does still have that freedom to switch out if it needs to change moves once. So a very important non-KO there. But excellent play by Gavin to at least keep himself competitive.
Yeah, and Salamence is going to go ahead and take out that Lucario, identifying it as the greatest threat and Gavin's best chance of bringing this back. Fire Blast gets the KO. Another 1-2 punch coming in from Kangaskhan gets the KO on Rotom Wash as well. And Gavin's down to his very last Pokemon up against 3 of Markus.
Yeah, I mean, game one's all but over here. Gavin played pretty well to make that competitive a little bit longer than I thought it was going to. Even as far as 2-3 turns in the end, he still had a shot here. But an excellent game by Markus there. He played the first couple turns of the game just extraordinarily well. And as has kind of been a theme tonight, when the players are so close in skill and there's so little options as far as things like speed control, if you fall behind early, it's very, very difficult to come back. And the player who got ahead early here closes the game yet again. So Gavin's going to need to go back to the drawing board here and try to figure out a way to get through this game, which is going to be tricky because I think he actually probably picked the correct Pokemon that game. If Markus is going to keep bringing Venusaur, Mega Kangaskhan rather, Gavin doesn't really have that option of bringing Venusaur, right? It's a terrible matchup with Mega Kangaskhan, so he probably can't make that adjustment. I don't know if I saw a whole lot there, but I think Mamoswine would have helped a lot with, though it's really the only option if you want to change stuff up just to change it up. Which may be an option, I guess, over Talonflame or something. But I feel like Markus is the team matchup. He played the better game one, and this is going to be a really difficult hole for Gavin to crawl out of.
Yeah, and Gavin's going to have to, or else it's going to mean a loss for the United States of America here in the international friendly. One more win by Markus will mean that Germany defeats the United States in a really close 3-2 set score. You're looking at Gavin's team on your screen right now. That's Rotom Wash, Talonflame, Lucario, Venusaur, Salamence, and Mamoswine. And of course, just for everyone else, Markus' team is Lucario, Rotom Heat, Salamence, Garchomp, Kangaskhan, and Gardevoir. And, like you mentioned, Gavin doesn't have too many options, and looks to me like Markus can just keep doing what worked last time. If he keeps playing this well.
Because, I don't think there's a big reason to deviate from his Pokemon choices. I mean, if he wants to have fun, he can bring Lucario in, see if he can mess around with that a little bit to throw Gavin off of his game. It's some of the advantage of having the option of a 2-mega team, but I don't really think he needs to. I think if he just picks the same sort of Pokemon, makes similarly good decisions, he's probably going to be able to close this one out. He just seems to have a combination of the superior team matchup, and he's the hotter player right now, though. He may be the hottest player in Europe at the moment. Really impressive performance in the national circuit there. And, well, this is Gavin's time to shine. He's proven he can do well under the spotlight after winning a national championship, but if he loses this game, America is out. After a really good run in Generation 5, winning a bunch of show matches, Germany may prove that they are just as good as it's looked like they are, and finally take a big win here over the U.S.
And it looks like Gavin does try to shake things up, gets that Mamoswine out on the field alongside Lucario, up against Markus's Salamence and the Rotom Heat. good to get the Mamoswine out against that Salamence, but the Intimidate right off the bat and facing up against that Rotom Heat, it's another really tense matchup here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see the way that Gavin will try to play this game. He's got a handful of hard reads he can try to make here, right? If you think Salamence is going to stay in, he can knock it out with Mamoswine. If you think Salamence is going to switch, a combination of his fighting attack with Lucario and Rock Slide will probably knock out Rotom. But both of those moves carry a lot of risk, and if he guesses wrong, he's probably going to lose Lucario to a fire-type attack. So I'll be interested to see if he thinks he can make that sort of read, or if he's going to play this a little bit more conservatively. Gavin's a pretty aggressive player, so more likely to try to go for the hard reads than some other players might be, but I feel like in a situation like this, you've really got to try to play a little bit more conservatively, though he may not even have that option really being viable with this team. A lot of defensively questionable Pokemon on Gavin's roster this time.
Well, that's one of the decisions Gavin has to make. If he thinks that he has such a bad matchup team-wise, then what he has to do is probably just throw Chaos into the mix. Try and make Markus make a mistake. And we see Markus does retreat his Salamence in favor of Kangaskhan back out on the field. Lucario is going to go ahead and Mega Evolve right off the bat here. Going to put some immediate pressure onto that Kangaskhan and the Rotom. The Ice Shard, or the Icicle Crash, or Ice Shard, I'm not sure, it's a German. Mamoswine does go for that onto where it was the Salamence, but does not get it with the switch to the Kangaskhan here. And the Citrus Berry coming out from Rotom after tanking that attack from Lucario here. Not a great position for Gavin to be, especially with that Will-O-Wisp burn onto Mamoswine now.
Yeah, that was a really questionable play by Gavin. I think that I don't know what how that play was supposed to be a winning play for him, right? Like, he couldn't have knocked out the Rotom the way he did it, and I don't know if Intimidated, he would have even knocked out the Salamence the way he did it. I wish he would have, and even if he would have, I don't know why you leave Lucario open to potentially get overheated there. So I wish he'd committed to one play or the other. I don't know if he's tilting a little bit after losing in the first game to Markus, but that was not... it's hard to imagine how that was going to be the first play in a miracle comeback for Team USA here. The burn on Mamoswine is going to make that a lot less effective, especially after the Intimidate. It's really not generating any pressure at all. Kangaskhan got out safely, though its ability to do much to Lucario here is limited, especially since it's shown that it doesn't have Fake Out already, so it's not threatening that. But rough spot, I guess, for Gavin's in. At the very least, he does threaten an Aura Sphere knockout on either Pokemon here, but that's still, he's going to have to hit the guessing game, and he hasn't been hitting the guessing game so far in the series.
Yeah, definitely true. Looks like Gavin's reads are just a little bit off, while Marcus's have been on point, bringing him into a commanding position to take this game home for Germany and the set, the entire tournament home for Germany here. It's going to be a very interesting position to see how Gavin reacts to this, if he is going to continue making some of those crazier calls, trying to make those hard reads. It seems like that might be the only way that he could get back into this game, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, he's going to have to take some risks, but I wish he'd played the first game a little bit more aggressively. He was going to do that, right? I mean, playing aggressively in a best of 3, if you do it the whole way through, maybe you get more, 2 out of 3, but when you're making it 1 out of 2, or I guess 2 out of 2 instead, you've really, really, really got to hit all the reads. Yeah,
and Kangaskhan goes ahead and Mega Evolves, while we get another attack from that Mamoswine onto the Rotom Heat, trying to predict a Salamence switch in, I assume, to get the Intimidate off here. Lucario does avoid the damage from both the Kangaskhan and the Rotom, so a little bit of free damage for Mamoswine, but burnt and intimidated, it's just not dealing the damage it needs to.
Yeah, a little bit might be a bit of a, a bold understatement there. Did that health bar even move? But, I mean, at least I think he gained damage. I mean, actually, no, I don't think he did gain damage. I think he did more damage to himself than Rotom took there. But still, I mean, like you mentioned before, if he's going to try to win the game, he kind of has to try to make some predictions there. Yeah, if he caught Salamence in the switch there, that would have been a huge play. I'm really not sure if it actually would have gotten the one-hit knockout here, considering all the attack damage debuffs on Mamoswine at the moment. But yeah, I mean, at least he's trying to make some plays there. You got to respect that. Lucario continues to threaten the knockout on other Pokemon, so hopefully, for Gavin's side, you've got to hope he gets a good Aura Sphere on one of the 2 targets here and makes the right prediction. I would expect that Markus will try to deny the knockout here and switch one of the two targets here. So Gavin's got to guess correctly here, and he might need to think about taking Mamoswine out as well. It's just not doing anything for him, and I don't think Markus will do him the favor of knocking it out for the free switch.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, right as you say that, Mamoswine is going to return back to Gavin in favor of Salamence of Gavin's own. Gets that Intimidate onto the Kangaskhan, trying to keep that under control. But of course, still the pressure from the Rotom Heat and the Kangaskhan onto Lucario is huge. And Rotom gets the Protect, and Gavin blows his attack right into that Protect. And Kangaskhan's going to get the double power-up punch onto Kangaskhan right there, taking down half of the hit points of that Lucario. And once again, bulking up that the power of that Kangaskhan, putting the pressure on. But a free switch in for that Salamence could mean good things for Gavin here.
Yeah, I mean, at least he gets in for free. He's still presumably threatening the knockout on Kangaskhan, though. With how bold Yoshi's playing this, I'm kind of curious if he knows something that I don't. But another great play on his end. He manages to get the 2 levels of attack without taking any damage in return. Does about half of Lucario's health for free. And he's continuing to threaten some damage here, at least, I guess, beginning finally to threaten some damage on his side. +1 Sucker Punch would do a big chunk to Salamence, though I doubt he'll go for it. And Rotom's got to retreat here. Yeah,
Rotom is retreating in favor of that Gardevoir. And for the second game in a row, the Gardevoir is going to block that Draco Meteor from Salamence. Looks like the Aura Sphere is going to get the KO onto Kangaskhan, though. So a little bit of extra momentum on Gavin's side. Does get the KO there. Unfortunately, doesn't get any damage off onto the Gardevoir. But Salamence probably isn't too concerned about being locked into Draco Meteor right now. Out comes Markus's own Salamence. We've already seen that Intimidate not a factor against that Lucario or that Salamence. Might we have a speed tie?
I would expect that we do. To say there's 2 big flaws in using Scarf Salamence at this point now, but it's become the expected option. The one is speed ties, which you're about to see, and the other is the fact that locking into Draco Meteor in a metagame full of fairies is very dangerous, which we saw in the previous play. Still, though, I think if you're trying to get this game down to a coin flip, you're probably doing pretty well as Gavin here. If his Salamence were to knock out the other one, he'd get the Flash Cannon off, and he would almost certainly win the game, which is a lot better than I think I was expecting this to turn out for him.
Yeah, he does get the Draco Meteor off first. Is going to get the Draco Meteor. It lands onto Markus's Salamence. That's going to be an easy one-hit KO, putting Gavin somehow back into the driver's seat. He made enough of these calls. He took enough of these coin flips that he managed to get the right rolls. Just one time too many for Markus.
Yeah, wow, he's taken a pretty impressive lead here. I felt like the way the beginning of this game gone that Gavin had dug himself quite a hole, but at 4-2 here, all he has to do really is figure out how to maneuver his way to finish this game safely. He doesn't want to just attack with what he has out, probably, but no, he's going to go for it.
This is Gavin we're talking about. Of course he's going to attack with whatever he has out. That Draco Meteor, not quite enough to get the KO onto Rotom, though, with that special attack drop. But the Flash Cannon is an easy one-hit KO onto that Gardevoir. And Rotom Heat all alone by himself, trying for the Thunderbolt onto Salamence, not even going to deal half damage there. And would you believe it? Gavin's about to get a 4-0.
What just happened?
What?
I was worried for a moment he was going to get 4-0'd the other way, and he has somehow not only won this game, but completely dominated it. What is going on in this match?
And there it is, just sealing the deal. The third Draco Meteor, Salamence ending at -6 special attack, gets the KO onto a Rotom H, and the United States of America pulling into a tie now. The absolute last possible game will decide the winner of this match. And just watching those two, if I'm Markus, I'm scared because I have no idea what Gavin's going to do to get this win.
Well, I think if I'm Markus, like if I'm Scott, I'm confused because I don't really know how exactly that game got away from him. It didn't really feel like Gavin was actually hitting all of his reads. He just put on enough pressure with Lucario, but he was able to get it done there. Lucario obviously has a huge advantage in the matchup against Kangaskhan, both being faster and fighting type, and being able to remove Gardevoir as well, basically the only fighting type Pokemon who could do that. He did have a pretty good matchup with Marcus's team there, so I guess it's not that surprising that Lucario was able to, basically knock out the entire team once it got going, other than a knockout and a half that Salamence helped out with. But I'm surprised that Marcus allowed Lucario to get away from him like that. I feel like he has a decent number of tools to control Lucario there, but he had some chances to get him, and he just didn't go for it. So I guess on that level, Gavin was hitting the reads, at least as far as knowing when it was safe to attack. I'd expect to see similar Pokemon again this game, maybe. I think that both sides probably feel like they could have won with the game, or the Pokemon that were brought to the last game, and just, one side hit the reads in game 1 and one side hit the reads in game 2. But Marcus does have the option of switching things up. If he's sick of this Kangaskhan matchup, he does have his own Lucario he can bring in. He's had 2 games to see what Gavin is going to bring now, so I doubt there'll be too much deviation. So he should have a good idea of whether or not he think that'll actually help or not. But I'd love to just see what we saw last game and have the players duke it out one more time there. See what crazy reads Gavin's going to try to make this time to dig himself out of this one. Yeah, that was an amazing game to watch. Just Gavin, even when he got behind, did not let up the pressure. I'm pretty shocked at how much pressure Lucario by itself put on the field there. Marcus spent so many turns trying to get the Lucario off the field that the rest of the team was able to do the work that it needed to do. And it looks like Marcus agrees, bringing his own Lucario on the field for the mirror match that I never thought I would see in this tournament. Gavin with that Salamence Lucario, and Marcus with the Gardevoir Lucario. Yeah, I actually think Lucario is really underplayed. I would not at all be surprised to see a bunch more of this next weekend and again in the World Championships. And there's a reason that maybe it took a while to catch on, since it's a difficult Pokemon to play with. You can't make errors or you're going to give up your Mega for free, which is usually a game loser. But it matches up pretty well with most of the common Mega Pokemon in the metagame, especially with Kangaskhan, and with Charizard not being so much of a thing anymore. I'm not too surprised to see these trainers bringing it out here. But the mirror match, certainly, hopefully we'll all take notes on this one, because I don't think we've seen too many of these. Yeah, and this is not only just a mirror match, it's a mirror match to determine the overall winner of the entire tournament. We've had 8 other trainers play for their countries here, and it just comes down to this one match between Marcus and Gavin, the reigning German national champion and the reigning United States national champion. Game 3, set 5, all tied up. The winner of this takes everything. Yeah, and both these trainers have really shown why they're national champions, too. Both had really impressive wins in one of the games this series, and we'll see who can get just one more and win it for their country. Yeah, and it looks like Gavin is going to put his chips on Mega Luke. Oh, and it looks like even though it gets the Mega Evolution, is that a Bullet Punch? Dealing almost very little damage there to that Mega Lucario who hides behind the substitute. Moonblast does come out from the Gardevoir, though, is going to double target that Lucario, does breaks the substitute, so Gavin no longer has a substitute up. And it looks like that was a strange turn there. Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you get a second game the way that we did there, is that now both sides are just going completely over the top trying to make reads here. Neither side really hitting what they were going for there. I'm sure that that's one turn where they're both kind of laughing a little bit at what happened. We do learn that Marcus's Lucario is a physical variant, which I think is definitely the more common of the Lucario builds. But yeah, I don't know quite what to say about that one. That was a strange turn. There's also the physical not a Lucario, though, probably a little bit weaker in this matchup against the special one, considering all of the extra Intimidate support that Gavin can use to support his special Lucario. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I mean, they should both still be able to knock each other out pretty efficiently, but as far as how they're going to fight the other Pokemon on each other's teams, it'll definitely be a trickier game for Marcus's side. Also worth noting that we didn't see a Mega Evolution there, so it's still possible it is a different item, and Mega Kangaskhan is hiding in the back, setting a trap here. Yeah, you always have to be worried about the hidden Mega Kangaskhan's. It looks like Salamence does launch a Draco Meteor again, but misses, or potentially double targeted up on that Gardevoir. Just wants to make sure that that slot on the team goes down.
The flash cannon from Mega Lucario is going to get the KO as well, while it looks like Markus's Lucario goes for the close combat and gets the one-shot onto the Mega Lucario as well. So normal Lucario doing just fine against its Mega counterpart.
Who needs Megas anyway? They're so overrated.
That's just too flashy, you know. Markus is clearly an understated battler.
Sometimes it's more about subtlety, yeah. I'm sure Gavin's really kicking himself after that one, though. 2 opportunities to knock out the enemy Lucario for free, and it's one of those situations where, like, there's no way he's just going to let me knock his Lucario out. I'll attack the other Pokemon, but that isn't what happened. And I think some of the danger there is locking into Draco Meteor, which kind of got him into some trouble in the first game as well. Lucario knows it's not being threatened there, so it's a little easier to make that daring read, knowing that the enemy Lucario can only knock out one of Markus's 2 Pokemon there, and that's exactly what happens. I feel like Gavin won Game 2 by making those aggressive reads, but he's in serious danger of losing Game 3 by doing the same thing.
Well, he does send out his Talonflame, which is going to be another incredibly effective offensive threat. Kangaskhan was hiding in the back, as we saw, switching out to replace that Gardevoir. Got that Salamence locked into Draco Meteor. Not the greatest to be locked into against a Lucario and this Kangaskhan that we've seen can tank some hits if it needs to. Talonflame out, though, going to put some severe pressure onto that Lucario again. We'll see if Gavin sort of thinks that maybe the 3rd time is the charm. He'll let me get the KO onto Lucario.
This time for sure.
This time for real.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually an interesting threat coming both ways, though. I mean, the combination of Talonflame's Brave Bird and a Draco Meteor from Salamence could probably knock out either of these Pokemon. So it'll be interesting to see what both sides do here. We know Kangaskhan has the option of protecting, which would put a big flaw in the plan. And I think if Gavin double attacks into a protect, it's probably a game loser. But Lucario also has the fun wild card that we haven't seen its item yet. And there's a good chance it's actually not the Mega Stone like we were assuming. If it's something like Focus Sash, it could really put a kink in some of the plans Gavin might be concocting here. So really complicated turn. I'm glad that both trainers are taking their time here because this is another one of those turns that could easily decide the entire series.
Yeah, and it looks like Gavin is a little bit wary of making another one of those plays. Is going to switch out Talonflame for Rotom Wash, while Kangaskhan does what it does best. Mega evolves, gets the baby out of the pouch, and is looking to put pressure right from the start. Does use that Protect, though, hoping to get another blown Draco Meteor into the Protect. And yeah, he does get the Draco Meteor into the Protect, while it looks like Stone Edge coming out from that Lucario onto Rotom Wash.
Yeah, Stone Edge doing almost nothing there, but
no
still.
Damage.
I mean, Markus is just he's playing against Scarf Salamence perfectly, right? I mean, it's very predictable. You know it's going to Draco Meteor. You've seen a willingness that Gavin doesn't want to switch it out here, especially if he's going to leave his more important Pokemon exposed to do so. So it makes it a little bit too easy for Markus to play against. It looks like this turn, finally, Draco Meteor will have to hit something because the options of immunities have finally been exhausted. But
and always the Salamence
is, yeah. It's definitely going to hit asterisk. But, I mean, the Salamence has been out here for about 70 turns now, and it hasn't done anything. So, a really good play by Markus so far to neutralize that Salamence. He's completely negated its impact for most of the battle. He's already knocked out the enemy Mega. He's put himself in a situation where he can definitely win the game here. And I imagine the combination of Kangaskhan and Lucario can probably down this Rotom. So, he's got to be careful here because the Salamence being locked in Draco Meteor, if it gets down to a 2-2, 3-2 game, it's going to be stuck for the rest of the game, and it's going to be close to running out of PP at this point.
Not only that, but it only gets 1 or 2 effective attacks off if it's locked into the Draco Meteor. You're right, though. It does finally get an attack off. The Draco Meteor connecting with the switched-in Rotom Heat. Going to deal some really good damage to that. About 2/3 there. Going to get the Citrus Berry active. But it's not going to be quite enough. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more damage out of that, I'm sure. Here comes the close combat from that Lucario, thanks to losing some of its attack, only dealing about half to the enemy Rotom Wash. Looks like just over half as the Citrus Berry comes out. Both Rotoms tanking some powerful attacks like champs there, and the Thunderbolt coming out onto Lucario doesn't get the KO even after those those drops, but Lucario hanging on with 4 HP and still putting pressure on the game.
Yeah, I mean, Rotom might need a new motor there. It's a little underwhelming to fail to knock out the Lucario, but I think it might actually be better for him to have not picked this knockout up. Lucario is low enough now that Salamence, assuming it doesn't miss, can finish it off with about the 30th Draco Meteor of this battle, and now he's got his own Rotom threatening the other one with Hydro Pump. So that might actually have been just what he needed. At the very least, if Kangaskhan wants to switch in and rescue one of these Pokemon from the likely knockouts, it comes at a pretty significant cost. So I actually kind of like this position for Gavin now. I still feel like Kangaskhan is going to be a really difficult Pokemon to remove, but
yeah, it looks like Gavin is a little bit concerned about that as well. Wants to save that Intimidate from Salamence for the Kangaskhan if it comes back in. Switches out for a Talonflame. Protect coming out from the Rotom Heat, and the Stone Edge from Lucario at 4 HP catches the Talonflame on the switch in, gets the easy KO right there. And it looks like that Hydro Pump right into the Protect of Markus. You know, Gavin going with all of these hyper-aggressive plays, getting blocked by that Protect in Game 1 and now in Game 3.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what happens when you play that aggressively. You know, sometimes it's going to pay off great for you, and sometimes it's not. I think he had enough of a position advantage there where he could have kind of dialed it in and played a little bit more passively for the remainder of the game. I think that's a problem sometimes with the really aggressive players, that maybe you don't realize when you should take the foot off the gas a little bit. And I think he was probably in one of those situations there. I think just leaving the Pokemon he had in and not trying to get greedy and taking advantage from what he hoped was going to be a free switch there. I don't know why you opened the door. I mean, I don't want to take anything away from Markus there. That was a fantastic read and probably a game-winning play. But part of that type of play is that your opponent has to give you the opportunity to make it there. And Markus does a fantastic job once again of capitalizing on every opportunity he's given there. But a little questionable by Gavin to give that opportunity this time.
This is such an interesting match to watch. These 3 games, they've all been so different. You know, both of them coming out with these pretty aggressive teams, and Markus just has just enough defense that if he makes the right calls and Gavin goes a little bit overboard, he can take control of the match like he just did. Gavin's still in a pretty good position. You know, Salamence isn't a slouch when it comes to winning games, but, you know, just those slightest mistakes at the highest level of play, you make a single mistake and your opponent is going to punish you for it.
Yeah, I think we may be seeing it. I guess I'll wait till after this turn.
Yep, looks like the Bullet Punch. Lucario is just trying to get a little bit extra damage out before it goes down onto the Rotom Wash. Does finally feint to the Fire Blast from Salamence. Going to go ahead and lock itself into Fire Blast there. Rotom Heat is going to get some damage onto the Washer Rotom with that Thunderbolt. But the Hydro Pump is finally going to connect and get the KO onto Rotom Heat. So now it's just Mega Kangaskhan versus Salamence, locked into Fire Blast and Rotom Wash. And I guess this is going to be the real test to see if Mega Kangaskhan is overpowered or not. Can it win?
Well, I have a pretty good idea how that's going to end up. But you know, I think at 2 levels, this is sort of a funny indication of how this metagame might look. You know, we've got Mega Kangaskhan out here facing off, probably going to win the series for its country, and probably see a whole lot of that this season. But also kind of just the idea, we're used to seeing at high-level matches these defensive struggles between players, you know, where there's a lot of switching, there's a lot of maneuvering, but we haven't really seen a whole lot of really high-level offensive matchups between 2 good players. But probably see more of that this game, and we get some pretty ridiculous turns when you have 2 really great offensive players facing off, if we see to this match.
Yep, going to try and get the points off. Oh, but the burn from the Fire Blast. And now Kangaskhan is not going to be able to deal anywhere near as much damage as it wants to. Still enough to get the KO onto the Rotom Washing Machine, but the burn on the Fire Blast going to change this game up. Is Kangaskhan going to be able to come back from this?
Oh, this is going to be really close now. I think Kangaskhan actually still has it, but it might come down to damage rolls here. You know, Flamethrower's damage is pretty sketchy, but getting that burn there, it's really going to be tight. I don't know how much offensive investment Markus uses on his Kangaskhan here, and I think that's going to really affect the return rolls. But wow, this is going to be really close. It'd be a shame if this series was determined by a flamethrower burn, but it's been just that close. And when you play matches that are this tight, sometimes that's what it comes down to, you know, just like one roll. We've seen a bunch with rock slide tonight, and maybe this time it's going to be flamethrower.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it'll take 2 flamethrowers to get the KO onto Kangaskhan, judging by the damage that was dealt last time. But we'll just have to see if Kangaskhan is going to be able to clutch this one out and bring back the title for Germany here.
Yeah,
really intense standoff. Yeah,
it's all about, you know, if return or the combination of return and sucker punch is going to be able to get Kangaskhan a KO here. A critical hit can still really change things, do a bunch more damage in spite of that burn, but it's really going to come down to rolls in this one. Quite the ending we're going to get here. We got a duel between maybe the metagame's, I guess, the second most common dragon and by far the most common mega. So an appropriate way to end here, and we're guaranteed a 1-0 finish here. Perfect way to finish the 5th match and the 3rd game of the 5th match.
Even the camera knows how intense this is. Those close-ups on Salamence and Mega Kangaskhan. You could feel the tension in the arena right now. Looks like Markus is taking every last second to make his move here. Here comes the flamethrower out from Salamence. Is it going to deal enough damage? Not quite. Down to 67 HP for Kangaskhan. The first return, the second only dealing just under half damage. That's not going to be enough for Kangaskhan to pull this one out.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it's hard to tell if Flamethrower is going to KO before the burn here. I think it comes down to a damage roll. If Flamethrower doesn't KO here, the right play for Markus is to return, because you only need 1 critical hit then for the win. Otherwise, he's got to go for the sucker punch, which probably has to critical hit twice.
Yeah, he does go for the sucker punch. Does not get either critical hit. Salamence is still on the field, goes with the final flamethrower. Is it going to be enough? Yes, gets the KO, and Kangaskhan goes down. Gavin takes it home for the United States of America in a nail-biter of a series. What an amazing match that was.
Yeah, you couldn't ask for a closer finish there. We go to the 3rd game. It goes down to a 1v1. And the Pokemon that we were expecting to win doesn't there. So anything can happen in a series like this. The players put on a really fantastic show. I feel a little bad for Markus there. Without the flamethrower burn there, that match probably would have ended a different way. But a really, really exciting match for both players there. And really for all 5 players on both teams. I think a lot of those matches could easily, with 1 roll or 1 decision different, could have gone either way. But I think what this show match really showed is that, you know, the best players in Germany and the best players in the United States are very, very close in skill level right now. They put on an amazing show, and the World Championships are going to be amazing if this is any indication. I have to admit, I was feeling a little down on this format, but all of these matches were fantastic. I'm really excited to see what we get at U.S. Nationals and the World Championships now. So thanks to the players on both teams for giving me some faith in Pokemon right now. In spite of, I guess, what the last match did.
These were some of the most entertaining Pokemon matches that I've seen in a long time. It's tragic for Markus that last game came down to such a small chance. But, you know, we've been saying it over and over again. You know, when you're top players, it comes down to these smallest things. You know, just the tiniest burn chance on a flamethrower could be enough to win you the game. It goes to show, like you were saying, how close these players are. And, you know, last year we had our first Italian world champion. I wouldn't be too shocked to see a German world champion this year.
No, I think this is one of the first years where if you were to put the odds in every country, Germany, if it's not your number 1, it's got to be awful close. And I think all 5 of these players really showed why today. Some really fantastic games by all of them. And I'm really happy to see how close everyone is now. You know, there were a couple of years ago, you know, it seemed like there were only a few players who really had a legitimate shot of winning the World Championships, but things are a lot more open now. A lot of players are working really hard this year. A lot of players have gotten a lot better, and anything could happen at the World Championships this year. So thanks to the players for putting on such a fantastic show here. I was hoping for some great matches, and it was better than I could have hoped. I'm really happy with this. Excellent show.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching, coming out and watching the show as well. Again, just a shout out to Aaron Zhang and Markus, Cybertron and Yoshi for organizing, captaining their 2 teams. I don't think you could have selected better players to represent your countries. Kudos to you. Thanks again to Dui Ha and Justin Flynn for commentating the first few matches of this tournament. Great job on them for their first live tournament together. And again, thanks to the viewers. You know, without y'all, this is, much less fun. So thanks for turning out. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. For more information about Pokemon VGC, you can visit at nuggetbridge.com for articles, forums, battles, etc. You can also follow me on Twitter at NBPlaid for the latest updates in Pokemon VGC. Follow Justin Flynn at the Justin Flynn, Dwee at NBDwee, DWEE, and Scott somewhere, but you probably don't want to do that anyway.
Probably not. Thanks again to Justin Dwee for commentating, and we really appreciated having you here. And yes, the U.S. Nationals this weekend. Hopefully the Americans will all be there, but for the European viewers and for everybody else, it'll be streamed on twitch.tv/Pokemon. So subscribe to it, follow it, watch us.
Go ahead and do that right now. Do that right now so you don't miss a single moment of the action from Indianapolis. I'm excited. This is really, really reinvigorated sort of the competitive spirit. This was an amazing series. And if you are going to nationals here in the United States, make sure that you pre-register online. You do have to pre-register for the national championships, so don't forget to do that right now. Right after you finish following twitch.tv/Pokemon, hop over to Pokemon.com and register for nationals. And we'll see y'all in Indianapolis. Have a great night.